Hello and welcome to the Knitting Traditions podcast. My name is Inga and this is my little knitting corner on the internet. I'm coming to you from the west coast of Norway, where I live and work as a doctor in obstetrics and gynecology. And today it's somewhere in between Christmas and New Year's. And if you're a returning viewer, you know I've spent Christmas at my cabin and I'm now back home to do a little bit of work, and then I'll return to some skiing after that. I wanted to check in with you guys and wish you all a very happy new year and show you some of the things that I've been knitting on, because I did a little bit of knitting since last time. I think I uploaded 8 or 7 days ago, but as I said, I had some days off, so I did get quite a bit done. I hope you're staying cozy wherever you are. I'm enjoying some yogi tea. It tastes kind of like grass, but it's soothing. And today I am wearing a very, very old garment. This is, I think I said before that the first cardigan I knit was the no frills, but that was a lie. I found this in my closet, and this is the first that I knit, and I think it's 6 years ago. This is a free pattern from Drops. And I'll see if I can find the name of it and put it in the description box below. But it's a free pattern from Drops. It has one of these pointy looking hoods, and it has some garter. Right, it wouldn't be garter. It's knit in stockinette, but it has some purl bump rows around the sleeves. And then in the back, it also, I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it has sort of a pearl diamond shape in the back. I knit this with Drops Kid Silk, held together with some fingering weight yarn, which I think was an alpaca yarn, but I don't remember the name. It's not really my colors. I think at the time I knit this, I was getting into knitting again, and I didn't know a lot about yarns. I knew how to knit, but I didn't know my preferences. I just wanted to practice knitting, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I chose a free pattern that I don't really ever wear because I don't like the shape of it. Again, it's the problem with it falling off my shoulders. It's a bit too small, not my colors. Yeah, I think I bought the yarn on sale. But it's a really comfortable sweater or cardigan, but yeah, no, it just doesn't fit right, and not the colors I usually pick up. But I wanted to show it to you guys because, as I said, if you're a returning viewer, I've said before that I'm trying to work through all of the things I've ever knit to show on the podcast previously to starting the podcast, and then when I'm done with that, which is getting closer, I'll start wearing the things that I've knit since starting the podcast. Yes, maybe we should get into some finished objects. Last time I was working on this hat, which is the Oslo Hat by petiteknit. It's knit with 2 strands of arwetta from Filcolana. I knit the junior size because I have a tiny head. I find that when I try to knit the Mohair edition, the sizing is different, so that always ends up too small, while this always ends up too big for my head. So I knit the junior size because I do have a small head, and even so, I find it almost too big with the junior size. It is supposed to have this extra fabric up here, I personally prefer more of a snug fitted beanie, but it is nice that I can really pull it far down because I knit this to wear it skiing so that I'm visible, because as you can see, this is a really bright color, but I actually kind of liked it. I have a pale yellow jacket that I use when skiing that's windproof, and it looked kind of nice with this. And I also have some red pants that I wear when skiing, so it all almost looked intentional. But yeah, it was really nice to have the triple layers when it was really windy. We went skiing, cross-country skiing across the lake outside the cabin. It's 10 kilometers, so it was quite far, and we were just skiing on the little bit of snow that was on the ice. And then on the return trip, it was quite windy. So it was really nice to have this. I did have to put my hood up as well, though. I knit this as instructed. This has a triple layer here, as you can see. It doesn't tell you to sew these layers together, only to sew the bottom, but I find that it kind of rolls like this if not. So on the inside, I just kind of, no technique here, I just kind of sewed this inner layer and this layer of the brim together, so no stitches are visible on the outer layer. As you can see, there's no fancy stuff going on, but it does hold it in place so that the fold stays perfectly situated the way that I want it to. So this is my third Oslo hat without mohair. I have a beige one and a brown one, and they're all great for keeping my ears warm. And I don't know, I surprisingly like this red more than I thought I would. I knit a lot more with neutrals and browns and rusts and greens, but it was fun. I mean, I prefer knitting with yarn that I think is just beautiful, and this color was a little bit bright, but I do really like the way it looks on. So maybe I will be knitting with more reds in the future. We shall see. I was looking at, if you follow the Prairie podcast, she posted on Instagram that she got some yarn from woolyknit. I have some cones from them, and she got some DK balls of yarn, and I had to look, and they had this really, really beautiful red. So I might look into getting that in the future. That would make a really nice cabled sweater, maybe. We shall see. I'm in no dire need of yarn, but I don't have a lot of red yarn. So that was one finished object. Yes. And I spent Christmas with my mother and father and my two brothers at the cabin. And my mother has sort of gotten back into knitting. She hasn't been knitting for many years, but she made slippers for all of us for Christmas. It's the same slippers that I've shown on the podcast here before, the felted ones from Sandnesgarn. And she made slippers for everyone, and it was really nice. But then she didn't have any knitting with her at the cabin, and I, being me, had brought a lot more yarn than I could possibly knit up in the matter of 4 days. So I suggested to her that we cast on together, because then she would have something to knit on and we could do something together. And I wanted to knit on it as well because I had bought this yarn because I wanted to try it. So she cast on the body and I cast on the sleeves, and I finished up the yoke, and then we worked on the neckline together, and voila! We made this sweater, and it took us 3 days. I think she is just as speedy as me when it comes to knitting. This is the Nika, Nika sweater. It's a kit that I bought from the Hillesvåg mill here in the west coast of Norway. And this was a sample they had in their store, and I thought it was just beautiful. And I bought a yarn kit for it. And this is the size small. My mother cast on the body and I cast on the sleeves, and I quickly realized that I have a tighter gauge than her. Or I would say that she has a loose gauge, because I met gauge with the recommended needle size, which was 5. But I could already see as I was knitting the ribbing and she was knitting the ribbing that mine was tighter than hers. So I suggested to her that instead of going up to a 5mm needle, she should just continue with a 4.5, so she's closer to gauge. And she hasn't knit a lot of color work, so she wanted me to do the color work. So I did that, and I knit color work somewhat loosely, I would say. I definitely don't knit it tightly. I did not go up a needle size. What is really nice with this yoke is that it has some purl stitches in the color work, which makes a really nice texture. So I think I will be looking for maybe some color work patterns in the future that also does that, because it was a really nice little detail. And then I had tried this sample on in the store. In the store it was an extra small, and I tried it on. To me it fit like a medium, but when I looked in the photos of this pattern, I can show you. It didn't really look like a very large sweater, because I would say this person is smaller than me, so the way the extra small fit me in the store looked bigger than this, so I figured maybe there was just something wrong with that one sample. So I knit the small size based on what the pattern said, and the decreases I did differently, because it's a round yoke with decreases, but in the pattern the decreases were kind of they were like 2 next to each other, and then a lot of stitches between, and I didn't like the way it looked when I tried it on, so instead I did the decreases evenly, and I thought that looked less, it wasn't so evident. You couldn't really see the decreases as visibly as with the other way of doing it, which is something I preferred. And then for the neckline, you could either knit it like a simple neckline, folded like we did, or a tall turtleneck. So we did the folded, so we just knit and then folded it down every now and then until we were happy with how it looked. And then instead of binding off, which would have been very tight, it would have been hard to get this small neckline over our heads. So instead of binding off and sewing it down, we knit it down. Or my mother didn't know how to do that, so I knit it down and showed her. So basically you have your knitting on your needles, and then you knit your stitch together with the base of the stitch on the inside of the neckline, and then those two together creates a new stitch, which is then on your needle. And when you have done that to 2 stitches, you can kind of bind off, but bind off loosely. So because the bind off edge is going to be in the inside, so it doesn't matter if it looks wonky or anything, but by doing it loosely it becomes a very stretchy neckline, but it still has this cinched in look. So yeah, I also did a few more short rows in the back than instructed, because we wanted a really nice warm sweater that covers our neck a little bit better than the sample I tried on. And we're gonna have this sweater at the cabin to use together. I took it home to wash it and dry it because I have heating in my bathroom floor and the cabin was too many people and too little space to dry it. So I've done that and now I'll take it back to the cabin. I will say that it's a lot of fabric in the yoke, so it's kind of bulky in a way that's not super flattering. I'm hoping that looks a little bit better now after the washing and blocking. So I will try it on and see, but it doesn't really matter. This is going to be a really nice, warm, cozy sweater to wear at the cabin. We can both use it. It fits us both. And it's a 3-colored sweater, like a DK worsted, maybe. Let's see. These 3 colors right here. So the green and the gray was the hillesvåg vidde, which is a Norwegian lamb's wool. And the green was 304. The gray, I have lost the label, but it's a light gray. And it's approximately 200 meters per 100 grams. Whatever that tells you. And then they didn't have the rust cognac color in the vidde, but they have another base called varde, which is not made of lamb's wool, but it's made of pelt wool, but it's the same meterage, 200 meters, and it's up the same. So I got it in varde so that I could get the color combo that I really liked. So yeah, all in all, really happy with this. Can't really believe that it only took us 3 days. It was really quick, and a lovely addition to the cabin. I might steal it home a few times because it's softened up really, really nicely with washing, and I think it's just going to keep softening up with wear. And also I think the yoke and these colors are just, they speak to me. So yes, that was my finished objects, almost. I did finish up almost. I haven't woven in the ends, and I have not washed it or blocked it, but this is my new pattern. These are the Huldra Mittens. The pattern comes with 4 sizes from 6.5 glove size, which is my tiny hands, up to, in the pattern I say 8.5, but they are very stretchy if you make them with some nice rustic wool. So I think my father was able to use the largest size, and he's a size 11, and my boyfriend is a size 8.5, and he was able to use the largest size. So I don't know, I guess it could fit more than just one size. But yes, I'm really, really happy with this design. I released it for Christmas, so it's on Ravelry now as Huldra Mittens. And if you want to cast on, because I'm doing like a little cast on party, so if you use the coupon code Christmascaston, you get $2 off this pattern. Sorry. And that code is valid until, I think, midnight on New Year's Eve. So these are the second largest size, which is like a 8. I did a smaller cuff on these because this is for my brother, and he has, I think, just as slim wrists as me. So in the pattern, you're supposed to do some decreases after the cuff, but if you want to accommodate for a smaller wrist, you could just cast on however many stitches you're told to decrease, cast on that many number of stitches less, and then just don't do the decreases, and you're good to go. So easily modifiable, a very simple knit. I'd say it's beginner friendly if you want to try yourself at some color work, because it is really simple and repetitive. what else can I say? It uses very little yarn. The pattern uses 3 colors, but you can use your scraps. I've done that. For this very pair, the contrast is not very high, but that was a choice of mine because I bought 3 skeins of fenul, which I liked, and the idea was that I wanted to experiment and see if I could make 3 mitten pairs out of 3 balls of fenul. One ball has 175 meters and weighs 50 grams. So I knit 2 of the second largest and 1 of the second smallest, and I just chose each for the main color once, and then I swapped around so they all represented the second and third color once each. And I still have leftovers, so if you have 3 balls of fenul, you could easily get 3 pairs of mittens out of them. I think you could get away with 3 of the largest sizes even, but I'm not completely sure because, as I said, I made 2 of the second largest and then 1 of the second smallest. So I have a little bit more left of the white than the other 2 because that's the one I used for the smaller of the 3. But yeah, I think my brother's gonna be really happy with this. It was quite cold at the cabin. It got down to -20, and we have like different kinds of mittens when we go skiing, and we have some synthetic ones which are more windproof and nice, but they don't give you warmth the way that wool does. So I actually found these warmer on my hands, even with the fingers sticking out, than my synthetic gloves. So yeah, my mother and father both got a pair. My brother will be getting this pair, and then I'll see if I'll make one for the other one. They're all very knit worthy, but I need to find some gifts for next year, so maybe next year. So yeah, that was one finished object. I'm gonna say it's finished, I just need to weave in the ends. And then I have some whips. So when I went to the cabin, I had to try out my new knitting equipment. So this is the Twizzter that I showed last time, which I was gifted. And I was thinking I would wear it a lot like this in the summer, because then I like to go walking and knitting at the same time. It doesn't work as well when I'm sitting because, you know, I don't sit and knit like this. I always rest my hands on my lap so that it doesn't strain my shoulders, elbows, and neck. It's just a very relaxing way of knitting. But I brought this with me, and on the ferry, I was sitting in my car, and you know these sun shielders things that you flip down to protect your eyes when you're driving? I have the kind that you can detach, and it's like a little hook that you push it into when it's attached. So I detached it and I hung this up there, and that way it was perfect for knitting the car because the yarn didn't run everywhere. So I am really happy with this. I've done a little bit of progress. Some of this is ferry knitting, and some of this is when we were driving up to go skiing, cross-country skiing, and it was like a 20-minute drive. So then I detached the head rest, I lifted it up, and I put this on it, and then I put it back down. So then it was hanging on that. So, you know, you just gotta find somewhere to hang it on. And I did a little bit of progress on a vanilla sock. Again, the base pattern of my Mohair sock pattern is just a simple vanilla construction. And I think I'm using 2 millimeters for this, and it might be a little bit tight, but I think it's gonna work. When I bought this yarn, which is, it's hedgehog. I think I actually have the ball band here. It's hedgehog fibers from Ireland, and this is the rusty nail color. And it's 400 meters, 90% merino and 10% nylon. And I have to admit that, oh, I forgot another project. I have been knitting on some nylon-free non-superwash socks recently with the mondim, and it's just been such a pleasure to knit with. So when I started knitting with this yarn, I can feel that it's superwash. It's not as enjoyable for my hands to knit with. So I definitely think I will be joining Melody Hoffman from bmandarines in her natural sock along for this year. She's doing a sock along with using natural yarns only, which kind of fits right in there with my rustic knit along for the year, which is about knitting with non-superwash yarns that contains no synthetic fibers. So if you knit some rustic socks, they fit into both those knit alongs. So I think I'm gonna keep an eye out to see if I can get my hands on some other sock yarns which are non-superwash and nylon free, because I want to make a lot more socks like that. But the color is beautiful, and I'm just enjoying knitting with my Twizzter so much. So I think this one is gonna finish up quite quickly if I get to go on some more fairies in the future. Or maybe I'll just see if I have somewhere in my house to hang it on. So yeah, that is one of my current whips. And I need to see if I can find my other socks. No. Okay, so I can't find my mondim socks. I just have the toe left on one sock, so maybe it's in my car. I will show it on the next episode and you will see a finished object. I can't wait to see how it wears up. I have 2 more balls of mondims, so I'm gonna make some other pairs for sure. But I do have 2 more rips to show you. So maybe first I can show you this one in this beautiful, stunning bag that I bought from Milda. Her store, she's on Instagram, is called, I'm sorry if I butchered this name, Payauta makes, Payauta_makes, I think is how she writes it. I'll put it here. She is an incredible maker from Lithuania. She sews up these bags and embroiders on these stunning patterns. So she got in contact with me and wanted to gift me one of these bags, and I just couldn't decide. They were so stunning. So I asked her if I could also buy one because I wanted to support her store as well. And when I had the chance, I just couldn't not, because she sells out really quickly. So she sent me this stunning, beautiful bag, which is where I was housing one of the other projects that I showed you. And then I bought this one as well, because one black and one white, big, lovely linen bags. What else can you need? And inside it has some lovely pockets and one of these things which I think I will attach some stitch markers to. But in this stunning, beautiful bag, I put an equally lovely pattern to match the color. So I am knitting on, and as you can see, it's quite big. It fits a cone of yarn and a sweater project. I am keeping my light grey natural cone from woolyknit, which is a British wool yarn, and I am knitting on the Ranunculus. So this is the Ranunculus, and I am using 5.5mm needles. I knit the body with my higher sharps, and I find that I have a little bit of a looser gauge with metal needles than wood. I'm using wood for the sleeves because I used that 5mm needle on the other sweater that I was knitting on, and this was kind of put on hold. But I don't mind that the gauge is slightly tighter on the sleeves, that's fine. It's not really very visible. It'll block out nicely. I'm making long sleeves on this. I finished the body, but I'm still working on the first sleeve, and I got the second sleeve to go. The yoke, as always, is a very beautiful structured yoke. This is my third ranunculus. I did the wider neckline, but as you can see, it's not wide at all because I am using a very thin yarn. I'd say it's a light fingering. But it's very stretchy again. I didn't use the cast on that's in the pattern. I used the Norwegian cast on that my grandmother taught me because I find it is very elastic. So what I'm gonna do is when I wash it and block it, I'm just gonna make sure that it blocks to be a little bit wider in the neckline. Yeah, I'm really excited to have this. It's gonna be a really nice lightweight sweater, less than 200 grams. I think the yarn will bloom quite nicely, but it's still gonna be a very light and probably somewhat see-through garment, so it's going to be a great layering piece, easy to scrunch up and put in a bag if you just want something warm to go with you in case you get a bit chilly. So it's not really the best sweater for this season alone, because sometimes I like to just wear really thick sweaters and then I'm good to go outside. This will not be that for me, but it would be maybe I could wear a t-shirt, this, and then another big sweater on top or jacket, because it will give warmth, but it will not be windproof, for sure. But I'm really liking knitting with this yarn. I don't know how to describe it. It's very rustic, but still, I don't know. I feel like it's getting softer and softer the more I knit with it. In the beginning, I thought that the yarn was a bit stiff and it has a lot of these long fibers sticking out. That was a bit coarse, some of the hairs, but knitting with it, it's just really nice and sheepy. And if you like rustic yarns, then I recommend trying this. I hope to travel to the UK ones, and I hope I can go to their store and just bring 3 suitcases to buy all their yarns. Because I really like it. I love knitting from cones. I put the cone on the floor and then I just knit. So I guess I like when my yarn doesn't fly everywhere. So I find cones really suit my knitting style, and the Twizzter really suits my knitting style more than maybe yarn balls, although I think yarn balls are really pretty. Hence why this yarn ball has been on my table ever since I got it. I showed it in the last episode. It's handmade by the Prairie Bag Works, and I've been keeping my last 2 skeins from my advents in here. So this year I subscribed to 2 non-superwash advents. So Brittany from Crux Fibers, she had an advent where I think all of the middies were this pure crux base. This was the 25th one, and You Are Welcome Here, I think is the colorway name. It's 100% blue-faced Leicester, and it's 420 yards per 115 grams. And it's a really nice, soft rustic yarn, I would say. The other that I have bought this Christmas was from Zakami, which are based in the UK. They're a lovely couple and they make stunning exquisite non-superwash bases, and this was the last color, and gotta love the rust right here. This is the Protea grandiceps. And it's 50% baby alpaca, 25% linen, and 25% silk. A sock fingering weight yarn. So these are both, I would say these are both next to skin soft. This one is of course more silky because it has a silk content, but I really like the feel of both of them. I have not decided what to do with my minis yet. I might just save them for maybe a future blanket at some point, but I would like to have more then before I start that. The minis of this would be really great to use in my Huldra Mittens, because the smallest amount of color has used anything from 1 to 5 grams. The second color most people used 4 to 10 grams. Of course, a few used more, it depends on the yarn weight and how tight. And then I could use some other scrap yarn for the main color, or this, because around 30 to 40 grams is enough for a pair. So yeah, I'm really happy with these, and they have been gracing my coffee table in this beautiful yarn bowl. I haven't tried knitting from this yet because I've been using it almost as a decoration. It's so pretty, but I definitely will try it out for my next colorwork project at home. And I wasn't finished with my whips. I have one more whip to show. So I have quite a bit of this fluff in my stash. This is an unspun pencil roving from Hillesvåg that I found in their store. And I just thought it was so fluffy and soft. It felt softer than my Plöttelupi, and softer than the Nutiden that I have. So I wanted to knit up something, and I've had the is it the Tulip Sweater by bmandarines in my library for a while, but I haven't knit with it because I started knitting the Ito and it just wasn't pleasurable for me to knit with this yarn held single, because it breaks very easily. And the way that I knit continental, I tension with my finger, and tensioning this yarn makes it break very easily. But I figured I would try this sweater because in the pattern it's held double, this yarn, and it also uses a silk mohair. So I did 2 swatches. I think, yeah, this swatch, first I did held double together with a silk mohair, and it was, I didn't meet gauge. The fabric was way too thick, so I tried with 1 strand of this pencil roving together with a silk mohair, and the fabric was too light for my liking. I met gauge, but it was quite see-through, I would say. So I decided to cast on without the silk mohair. So I'm holding it double but without the silk mohair. And I am working on the raglan increases. I am still struggling a bit with not breaking the yarn. It has happened a few times, but is not as bad. I think it's gonna be an extremely soft sweater. It's already like a cloud, like a rustic cloud, but a cloud. It feels really nice. I'm a bit worried about the neckline, if it will lie nicely. This is rolling up on itself, but that I think will block out. I just hope that it will lie flat and not stick out and be floppy. I think it should be fine. If not, I will be a little bit sad. But then if it doesn't look nice, I could wear it outside when I'm working in the garden and stay warm. Because it wasn't very expensive, so I don't have to be scared about it as long as I don't use a lot of sweat and tears making this. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how I feel about this yarn when I'm done knitting with it and how the garment turns out. I definitely don't feel as relaxed knitting with this fragile yarn compared to how I feel knitting with other yarns, where I don't have to look at my knitting and I can just knit and don't even worry about it breaking. So it's a different kind of knitting, but I do really like how it feels. It is really soft, and hopefully when I'm done with it, it'll look okay. I think I have 3 of this. This is still the first one. And surprisingly, when I started knitting with this is caked up double. So if I were to use only one strand of this, that would be a nightmare to wind up. So I'm just knitting straight from this because it is wound up as 2 strands. So that works. Oops. So that was all of my whips. I have 2 acquisitions to show you, not counting the beautiful bags that I both bought and was gifted from Milda. I got my latest Knit Crate box. For a while they were sending their biodegradable bags, but this month I got their cardboard box, which is also biodegradable. And this yarn was gifted to me. Every month I am gifted their monthly subscription to show on the podcast, and you can use Knitting Traditions to get a 20% discount off. It's a coupon code, and I think the first month you also get 50% in addition, so that would give you a 70% off. And that would give me a little bit of money because I'm an affiliate member, but you don't have to do it. I think it's a lot of fun, but you never know what color you get. You know, they do a preview, but you don't get to choose the color, so that's a surprise. And I like to not watch the previews because then it's even a bigger surprise what you get. And I thought, in the beginning I was looking at the previews, but now I just like the surprise. And this is the Uru yarn Cozy, and that's the color Bubble Tea. It's 45% Huacaya alpaca, 45% Suri alpaca, 10% stellina, and this is super bulky, so it's 50 meters per 100 grams. Now I will confess that this is not my color. It kind of reminds me of the Grinch, that Christmas movie, the green Grinch, and then you have these red flecks that are Christmas lights. I am not the biggest fan of flecks, no. I do love a slight variegation and tiny speckles. Speckles is the word. So yeah, but I think I will still find something to knit this with. I am planning on making some pumpkins with an orange yarn I got, and I was thinking this would make some really nice Christmas ornaments. Maybe I could knit some Christmas trees or some elves or something along those lines for next Christmas. I will say though that it is extremely soft. So if there is someone in my circle of friends or family, maybe some children who likes this kind of color, and the stellina gives it a little bit of sparkle, then it would make a great gift knit. Being super bulky, making a cowl or a hat would be very quick, and it would definitely not itch them because it is soft as butter. Yes. And they also this month sent some tea, Winter Bliss. So I'm looking forward to trying that after this podcast. And they always send patterns with the monthly box designed for the yarn. I kind of go rogue and I knit whatever I like to because I'm not very good with sticking to patterns. But yeah, I'm really pleased with these boxes. So if you like a bit of surprise, then this is something to give a go. And then I received another parcel when I got home from the cabin. This is by Amalie. You can see her name there. She speaks Danish, but she lives in Israel. And she contacted me to ask if I wanted to try one of her non-superwash yarns. And I saw she had some DK base, and it's winter, so I wanted to try that. So I got the natural Eucalyptus. That is this colorway. And this is organic by Amalia. It's 225 meters per 100 grams. It's 100% organic, non-superwash merino. And I think it's just beautiful. It's really nice, warm cream. And I'm not sure what I will make yet. I think this would make a really nice hat or a cowl, or maybe I could incorporate it into some mittens or color work. We shall see. But I think it's a really nice color, so it should be a special project. So thank you, Amaya. Yeah, I think that was all the knitting for this past week. And I wish you a very, very happy new year. I hope that this next year is going to be amazing, better than the last, and that you all have a lovely time and lots of knitting. And I forgot to draw the last winner of the stash along on Christmas Eve. Life has been busy. So I will put the name here. I will draw it straight after recording this because I need to get my phone to that, and I will send the price for the stash along out. And then on the 1st of January we will be starting the rustic knit along. I think that I am going to host it only on Instagram this year because I don't know. I'm never on Ravelry anymore. I don't have the time to keep up with all these social media, but I use Instagram. That's the one that I use. So I think I'm going to be hosting it on there. Maybe I'll have a thread on Ravelry for those few people who don't want to use Instagram. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm not going to be on there actively. Because I just don't have the time. But it's all about the knitting and knitting together and enjoying the non-superwash yarns and the rustic yarns and all the animal fibers and just enjoying our knitting. So I hope you enjoy your knitting, and I will see you soon. Bye!